Hello, it's a pleasure to be with you. My name is Elizabeth Klodas. I am a preventive cardiologist and the Chief Medical Officer and founder of Step One Foods. And my topic today is prevention has been a failure up until now. And I want to share with you my journey in this entire space. Prevention guidelines, heart check symbols on food, entire month devoted to disease awareness. And yet, heart disease prevalence in the US is rising. Right? We spend, even though it's almost 80% preventable, we spend billions every single year on awareness campaigns, education, counseling, and yet we weigh more than ever. Our children are developing type 2 diabetes at unbelievable rates. And cancers that used to only show up in old people are turning up in 40-year-olds. Okay? By every measure, the only conclusion we can make is that chronic disease prevention has been an abject failure. Why is that? And why, and how is this cardiologist finding success through founding a food company of all things? I went into medical school and finished my training completely enthusiastic and idealistic. I was going to cure people. After all, I went to the finest institutions. I was prepared to do this, and I did exactly what I was taught. High cholesterol, here's a pill. High blood pressure, here's 2 pills. And yet, no matter how many medications I prescribed, no matter how perfect I got my patients' numbers, no one looked better, no one felt better. In fact, the majority of my patients were telling me that all the medications I had put them on had made them feel worse. No cures, just a never-ending revolving door of follow-up visits. I was getting nowhere. It was only when I started asking my patients about what they ate that I came to understand the shortcomings of my approach. I was treating numbers, not the reason why those numbers were abnormal in the first place. And here I would, at this point, ask you in the audience to reflect upon this. Has your physician ever taken a detailed dietary history from you? Not just ask you if you eat some fruits and vegetables, or really inquire into what you do every single day. What's a typical breakfast? What do you eat for lunch? How about dinner? Do you snack? What do you drink? How much? If your doctor has done this, understand that you are in the tiniest of tiny minorities. And isn't that astonishing? Right? We eat every single day, multiple times a day, literally flooding our bodies with bioactive substances. Isn't that at least relevant to our care? And this was my epiphany, right? High cholesterol, it's not caused by a lack of Lipitor. Obesity, it doesn't happen because we're all born Ozempic deficient. These are all conditions that are caused not by a lack of the right drugs, they're caused by a lack of the right foods. I was treating the wrong thing. Worse, actually, I was covering up, enabling the real culprit with a bunch of medications. Unfortunately, my medical training left me completely unprepared for this reality. You all know the statistics, but I'm a living example of it. 14 years of education, okay, at some of the world's finest institutions, Mayo Clinic, Johns Hopkins. How many hours of that were devoted to nutrition? 0. 0 hours. Even though, as a clinician, I am tasked with managing high cholesterol, high blood pressure, high blood sugar diabetes, and the downstream inevitable coronary artery disease. These are conditions that are impacted, driven by food. And also that I'm not alone, okay? Another shocking statistic, even though we know this, this is amazing. Medical schools devote less than 1% of education time to food and nutrition. This is educational malpractice, right? Me, I had to educate myself. Now you might say, okay, well that's very simple, right? This is how we solve it. Just teach doctors nutrition. Perfectly logical. Okay? But to actually have the majority of US physicians be nutrition literate, even if we start today with an all-out effort, it's going to take 1 to 2 decades to get there. Meanwhile, there's 94 million Americans with high cholesterol today, 126 million with hypertension today. 200 million of us are overweight or obese. Are we just supposed to wait decades until our doctors understand that the right foods and the right combinations are critical to heart disease prevention? Provider education is great, but we also need, in the meantime, solutions that they can deploy today that are easy and as effective as prescribing a drug. Because doctors know how to prescribe drugs. Let's make it as easy and effective for food. Plus, all that nutrition education, honestly, will be all for naught if there's no economic incentives to deploy it, right? If I prescribe a statin, easy peasy, right? Takes no time, okay? That intervention is measurable, reportable, trackable, and reimbursable. I will be paid for that patient interaction without question. Actually, with maybe a little kicker thrown in for, decision-making complexity. If I talk about broccoli, no one cares. Right? How do you even measure that? How do you even validate that it happened? Right? Reimbursement, not assured. From a patient's perspective, the statin, free with insurance. The doctor visit that created the prescription, covered. Right? The blood tests that are needed to track effect and side effect, paid for. The food that could prevent the need for the statin in the first place, not covered. The nutrition counseling charge, denied. Because nutrition counseling is only covered once you have type 2 diabetes or kidney failure. I mean, that's insane. Insurers have the time horizon of a fruit fly. Right? They don't care about, they only care about the cost of your care for the next 6 months, not over the next 6 years, right? In 6 years, you'll be somebody else's problem. Your future health is not valuable to them, so why would they invest in it? The truth is, prevention is everybody's favorite talking point. It's no one's business model. There's no money in prevention. Frankly, only disincentives to the practice. I want to believe that one day insurers will cover clinically validated foods at the same level as they cover validated pharmaceuticals today, but that's not the reality right now. And so any food intervention that is deployed within the provision of preventive care has to be economically viable without insurance coverage. It also has to rise above the sea of ubiquitous health claims that you see on store shelves, right? On foods and store shelves, right? High fiber, low fat, whole grain, right? Heart healthy. Well, this begs the question, if everything's so good for us, why are we all so sick? What those labels don't tell you is that the low-fat yogurt delivers the same amount of added sugar as a candy bar. The whole grain cereal contains 80% refined starch. The high fiber bar is built around inulin, and all the other ingredients that are part of the delivery vehicle basically counteract any benefit that the added fiber might provide. Those heart check symbols, they're purchased, not earned. If they were true markers of health, they'd be on apples and oats, not cans of soups with 600 milligrams of sodium. The result? Consumers might be trying to eat better and improve their health on their own, but they're being duped at every turn, right? Structure and function claims are not good enough for this purpose, right? If you're going to introduce foods for prevention and management of disease, these foods have to be backed by objective clinical validation and proven health benefits, period, full stop, right? This is a completely different level of standards to be applied and achieved. Finally, the solution has to meet people where they are. Let me tell you about Mary. Mary is enigmatic of the patients I see every single day. She's 50 years old. And when her cholesterol, weight, and blood sugar start to creep up around the time of menopause, she took responsibility and action. She joined a gym. She started buying all those foods with health claims. She even asked her primary care provider, hey, what else can I do? Oh, just eat better, cook more foods from scratch. That's typically good. And yeah, follow that Mediterranean diet. That's got a lot of good data behind it. More beans, whole grains, right? Perfectly reasonable advice. If you live in a test kitchen, right? I mean, Mary is busy. She's a working mother. She's juggling kids and aging parents and a high pressure job and a life that never slows down. She has 30 minutes to throw dinner on a table, let alone fix something that everyone will eat, right? The notion that she's going to start soaking beans and steaming quinoa and chopping vegetables every single night is frankly absurd. Mary's not lazy, she's just living in the real world. And when her labs don't improve, she does what the system incents. She goes on a statin drug. But now she's achy, and that gym membership is going to waste. She feels worse than ever. Mary isn't failing prevention, prevention is failing her. Prevention fails because doctors are not trained to prevent chronic disease. The system reimburses and pays for management of disease, not health. And the food environment is broken, right? Leaving, basically ensuring that everybody fails at this. So, Step 1 Foods was designed to help fix these issues and address them head on. To be clear, I did not go into medical school to start a food company. This was the farthest thing from my, life plan. But I did this because I could no longer stand seeing patient after patient like Mary do everything right and yet fail. And because as a doctor, honestly, just fixing numbers is incredibly unrewarding. So, our approach was methodical. Our solution had to be practical and driven by results. First, we had to make things easy for patients to improve their nutrition. So instead of making people cook everything from scratch, we made items that they're eating already, breakfast and snack items, and rebuilt them from the inside out. Made them with oats and walnuts and chia and flax and berries. Every single ingredient chosen for its health-promoting properties. No wasted calories, no weird ingredients. This is food, not a funky powder, right? Everything you need, nothing you don't. 11 different unapologetically delicious products so that people had choice and didn't just have one thing to eat. They had a choice of what they ate so they wouldn't be bored. And that made them ready to eat and, requiring no refrigeration, so that even real people, busy people with busy lives could eat these things on the go. And we made sure that we combined those ingredients in such a way as to make sure that every single serving of every single product delivered clinically meaningful levels of the nutrients we know people are missing in their diet, but are critically important for heart disease prevention. Whole food fiber, omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, plant sterols. And we did what no other food company has done. We subjected our approach to the same level of scientific scrutiny you'd reserve for a drug. Okay? Because what we're doing is we're on a mission to improve health, not create health claims. And we also knew that if providers were going to trust this solution, we had to provide them with nothing short of that. Proof validated by an independent testing facility. So we worked with Mayo Clinic and University of Manitoba, frankly, risked the company on this, the future of the company, by having them perform a randomized controlled double-blind clinical trial in a free living population. And the instructions were very simple. Hey, here's a box of food, right? Choose anything you want out of this, just pick 2 servings a day and eat them instead of something you're eating already. Like, that's it, okay? Change nothing else. You don't want you to start exercising, don't start eating salads if you don't eat them, just make 2 small changes, okay? And then come back in 30 days and let's see what happens. And what happened was amazing, okay? In 30 days, we saw LDL, so bad cholesterol reductions, on par at times with statin drugs. 30 days with food, not pills, no side effects, right? And no struggle for patients. Just food, but designed with science and not slogans. And delivered at a price that's comparable to other like foods in the marketplace. And with use persistence statistics that pharmaceutical companies would envy. Step 1 works because it fixes the reasons why prevention fails. We make prevention easy to deploy, economically viable, and humanly possible. It's prevention that finally works in the real world. Thank you.